We are so excited. I am Sherilyn Adams, the Executive Director of Larkin Street Youth Services, and I am just thrilled to be here this morning in our engagement center where we work with young people here 13 to 24 who need assistance with food or showers or laundry or a place to come in from inside and hang out and get the support and tools they need to be able to begin to address and resolve their homelessness. We have lots of housing programs, and we have lots of education and employment and behavioral health supports that are here and throughout the city. But we are excited to be here today with all of our partners to really launch or to be a small part of this huge initiative to address child sexual abuse or sexual trafficking and child sexual exploitation. Larkin Street and Huckleberry, both our organizations started in the mid-'80s and before with Huckleberry to really address the needs of teenagers who are on our streets and at high risk for exploitation. So we know that without intervention in the foster care system, without intervention for young people who are running away or find themselves on the streets, that they are at enormous high risk for trafficking, for exploitation, if we don't get to them soon and if we don't prevent that. And the most wonderful thing I think about this partnership that you're going to hear about is really the prevention end, the early intervention end, and the collaboration that is bringing together so many incredible partners to really work on this issue in a much more profound way. And we're just excited to have you here and excited to be a small part of it. And I am always honored and delighted to get to introduce our mayor. Mayor Breed has been in office for just about a year now, right? Yeah? Tomorrow? Well, we're glad to celebrate your first year almost. But she has been as an active supporter of homelessness, of youth homelessness, of Diamond Youth Shelter, which is one of our part in this project, and so much more in the city to support young people, to help so many of us, so many of the residents in San Francisco thrive. And I am deeply honored to introduce you this morning. So welcome.
Thank you. I am excited to be here. Thank you, Sherilyn, and thank you to Larkin Street for all the work that you continue to do to support young people in San Francisco and Huckleberry. I'm just so excited to have these organizations as well as the other organizations who are partnering for what we are announcing today, which is a $9.3 million grant from the Department of Social Services for the state of California, which is absolutely incredible. This was a very competitive grant, and it was awarded to 10 partnering organizations who help to deal with the challenges that we know, sadly, so many of our young people face around sexual exploitation. In fact, in 2017 in San Francisco, we had over 300 reported cases from young people of sexual exploitation, and in most cases, they were women of color and women from our LGBT community. And what that tells me is we have more work to do. We know that just last year, with Sherilyn and the folks from Larkin Street, we announced the Rising Up campaign, where we are committed and determined to end youth homelessness in San Francisco, investing millions of dollars in providing the kinds of support and wraparound services that young people need in order to get their lives on track. We know all young people may not have that safety net, may not have that support. You know, there were challenges in my own family, and in fact, I'm so blessed that I had a grandmother who was able to take in me and my brothers and raise us. Even though it was some of the most challenging conditions, my grandmother was very strict. She was very focused, very determined to make sure that she did everything she could to protect us. And when young people don't have that safety net, when they don't have that support, when they don't have that protection, sadly what you see are predators who go after young people, and sometimes they end up in the streets doing the kinds of things that they never imagined were possible. We have to make sure that there is an alternative. And this $9.3 million grant provides us with an opportunity to provide supportive services, to provide housing, to track and find out what is going on and what we can do better to prevent it from happening in the first place. So I'm just really excited about what this is going to do to change and save the lives of so many young people in our city. And I want to thank all of the partners, all of the organizations, and in particular, the Commission on the Status of Women for leading this effort and making sure that we are focused on addressing issues that sadly disproportionately impact women in our city. We are well on our way to addressing so many challenges that we know we face one at a time. It takes dedicated partners. It takes dedicated public servants. It takes dedicated people from the community who care about addressing these issues. And so I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. This is an amazing, amazing grant. And I am looking forward to the implementation and the changes that we know are going to come because of the result of this funding. Thank you all so much. And with that, I'd like to introduce the Director for the Commission on the Status of Women, Emilie Marah.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. Before I bring up the additional speakers, I really wanted to recognize the mayor for her leadership as a champion of youth through such programs as Opportunities for All, bringing economic empowerment to high schoolers, and her focused commitment to housing individuals who are homeless. As you know, commercially sexually exploited children are mostly homeless. It's really one of the root causes of this problem. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce the Executive Director and Founder of Freedom Forward, Alia Whitney Johnson, and Doug Stiles, my second grade classmate, and Director of Huckleberry Youth Programs. Please give them a warm welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Sherilyn, for hosting us this morning, and thank you, Mayor Breed and Dr. Marah, for the very important work you do on behalf of young people every day in our community. The more I learn from young people, the more I realize that commercial sexual exploitation is not a story of victims and villains, but rather a story of systemic failures. Times we have failed to meet people's needs, and these young people have taken their needs into their own hands. Times that our inability to respond with compassion during their trauma has further alienated them. But within this story of systemic failure is a story of incredible youth brilliance, lived expertise about struggles and shortcuts in navigating the system, a hustle that is fiercely resourceful, persevering, resilient, knowledge that is absolutely critical if we want to build a vibrant, healthy system that works for all. These are the voices that we are centering in this continuum. They deserve choices, and they deserve a system that works for them and a voice in what that system should be. By ensuring young people are a part of our design process and that we build in feedback loops to honor their input, we believe we will build a more effective system of care for all. So what is this collaborative that we're building and here today to announce? Through this grant, we're bringing together 11 community partners to develop a continuum of services that we hope will meet youth where they are, recognizing that meaningful change is rarely linear and needs to meet youth when they are ready. This continuum includes 5 major components, as well as a protocol for navigating those components and a rigorous evaluation. We hope to openly share our successes learned and, if effective, to replicate what works across the state. The 5 components of this continuum include, first, a drop-in center where youth will be able to access services under one roof, whether or not they identify as being exploited or are currently being housed in the continuum. Second, a launch pad shelter for youth transitioning from life on the streets or unsafe living situations. Third, a short-term residential treatment program. Fourth, a new model of family-based foster care right here in their community with wraparound support. And finally, 24/7 mobile response and emergency services. Freedom Forward will be leading the drop-in center and the family-based foster care components. First, we'll be launching a center where youth can access services and activities under one roof, very much like the center you're in today. Rather than providing the services ourselves as Freedom Forward, we plan to work with youth to identify what they want in the space, starting by hiring youth as consultants, paid consultants this fall, in partnership with our friends at Voices, to design everything from the ground rules for the space, to the intake process, to how we define success. Our role will be to facilitate and coordinate services from across our community, bringing the best our community has to offer, remaining accountable to what youth want. In early 2020, we also aim to launch our family-based foster care pilot. As many of you in this room know, problems in foster care often lead teens to being moved around, isolated, surrounded only by professionals, far from loved ones and the people who they care most about. All of this instability and lack of connection makes an environment that's ripe for exploitation. We plan to pilot a new model of foster care that will provide stable family homes right here in their community, and will wrap youth and families with both the professional support that they need, as well as a real emphasis on the relationships with family and friends that youth want in their lives. This pilot will engage a great team of providers in what they do best, including family builders, West Coast Children's Clinic, Huckleberry Youth Programs, and this pilot will also include additional caregivers who provide what grandmas do, like Mayor Breed talked about. So often, outside of the system, the way grandmas and aunties show up to provide a safety net for our young people. So we're gonna be building a whole village of care for youth and everyone who is supporting them. As I step back and think about building a community where every young person can experience all that it means to be free, I wanna end today with a quote from a young person who grew up right here in San Francisco and was interviewed by our friends at the Young Women's Freedom Center. She said, "Freedom is when we reach back and pull the next sibling with us because we see your brilliance and we know that you will shine when you're surrounded by real love. Let us pull our siblings with us and let us hold each other tight with love as we all move forward." Thank you, and it is my pleasure to introduce the Executive Director, Doug Stiles of Huckleberry Youth Programs.
So thank you, Alia. Thank you, Mayor Breed, for your leadership on work with youth, has been mentioned before. Thank you, my classmate, Emilie, for leading and being a champion of these issues. Thank you to Larkin for hosting this fabulous event. It's an incredible group of people that we have here, this collaboration that's been brought together. But what we need to start with is that trafficking, sexual exploitation happens here in San Francisco. These are our children. It is a systems issue, not an individual issue. No one chooses to be exploited. Trafficking and exploitation inhibit the entire community from thriving. That's why we've all come together to change the trajectory of lives of young people affected by trafficking and exploitation and to prevent others from becoming more deeply involved. In 1967, Huckleberry Youth Programs established the first runaway shelter in the country addressing the needs of young people who found themselves on the streets of San Francisco. Unfortunately, our 52 years of experience, we have seen too many young people commercially sexually exploited and too many young people at risk of human trafficking. But every day, we also experience the resiliency of young people. This project is an attempt to bring together various experts from various fields to provide the needed supports for young people to heal and to provide the chance and the necessary tools to reduce the risk of further exploitation. As one of the partners in this project, Huckleberry Youth Programs will provide intensive case management and mental health support to divert young people to a safer and healthier life. Learning from our experiences, working with adolescents in challenging situations, whether it be providing temporary shelter or family reunification, mental health counseling, substance use support, reproductive health education, juvenile justice diversion. In all of these things, we know that young people thrive when they direct their own future. Our process is to listen to each youth, to hear their hopes and dreams, regardless of their current situation, to treat them as human beings, and become a catalyst for change. For this pilot project, Huckleberry Youth Programs will be part of the mobile crisis response team to provide support to young people where they need it most. With these funds, we'll be able to work with young people to maintain their current living situation or their current placement. And for those with less permanent housing, a placement navigator will help determine a safe, healthy living environment for their future. Huckleberry Youth Programs will provide training to residential and placement staff, to foster families and foster agencies and shelters about the specific needs of this group of people, including trauma-informed and strength-based approaches. Finally, if emergency shelter is needed, Huckleberry House will provide temporary, safe home environment. As a native San Franciscan myself, raising my daughters in this city, I am very proud to see this collaboration come together and very excited to work with this incredible group of people. I look forward to a future where we no longer need these services or these programs, when all of our children are safe, healthy, treated justly, and are well educated. But we have a lot of work to get there. By working together with the support from the California Department of Social Services, I believe we can build a stronger community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug and Alia. In closing, I just want to introduce the San Francisco Continuum team. The folks here for the Department of the Status of Women, just give a wave. Huckleberry, we have Freedom Forward, Human Service Agency, Family and Children's Services is here, Family Builders, West Coast Children's Clinic, Edgewood Center for Children and Families, Claire's House, Learning for Action, Berkeley Human Rights Center, and of course, Larkin Street Youth Services. Finally, I just want to give a shout out to the San Francisco Collaborative Against Human Trafficking and the Mayor's Task Force on Anti-Human Trafficking. If you're a member of these organizations, give us a wave. Through these two bodies, San Francisco has surfaced an invisible issue and advocated for critical services, such as a 24/7 response to C-sex survivors from what was once Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Now, through this grant, we're going to be tackling wraparound services and housing options. I want to especially thank the Task Force Youth Committee for putting together, and the Youth Advisory Board for putting together the recommendations that has brought us to this point. Thank you all for joining us.